There's this idea that the greatest strategic failure is believing a large purchase requires a large pitch. But what if that's completely backward? What if the entire sales battle isn't won in the final negotiation, but in the very first second? So today, we're doing a special deep dive explainer on a really fascinating system called scroll stopping science. We're going to uncover why a staggering 90% of advertising fails almost instantly, and way more importantly, how you can actually engineer success in the first 1.4 seconds. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by really defining this huge problem we call the 1.4 second failure. Then, we'll get into the neuroscience behind it, your brain's automatic filter. After that, we'll reveal the solution, something called the disruption relevance lock. But we won't stop with just the theory. We'll give you a practical framework to master this, before we wrap up with why this is the single most powerful move you can make.
So let's start with the crisis that's really at the heart of modern digital marketing. It's a failure that costs advertisers billions of dollars, and it all happens in less time than it takes you to blink. And this isn't about having a bad offer or a weak call to action. No, this is about a fundamental misunderstanding of attention itself.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this flawed assumption that costs millions. We pour so much time and money into crafting the perfect 30-second pitch, thinking that's what will convince someone. But what we're missing is the brutal reality. The real battle isn't for consideration. It's for that initial nanosecond of attention.
And here it is, the number that should honestly keep every marketer up at night. A staggering 90% of your ad budget is basically going up in smoke before your core message even gets a chance to land. Just think about that. 9 out of every $10 you spend is wasted. Not because the pitch was bad, but because it was never even heard. And all this waste happens within the first 1.4 seconds. It's the silent killer of campaigns. So what if we've been looking at this whole thing completely wrong? This question forces us to reframe everything. It shifts our focus away from the end of the funnel to the absolute beginning. It suggests that maybe our obsession with the pitch, the offer, the landing page, it's all misplaced. The real war is fought and decided at that very first impression, that split-second decision the user's brain makes to either give you a moment or just scroll right past. So why does this 90% failure rate even happen? Well, let's explore the powerful psychological mechanisms that are driving it. And this isn't about users being difficult or picky. It's about how the human brain is literally hardwired for survival in a world of just overwhelming information. We are all built to ignore ads. This concept right here is the main villain in our story. Inattentional blindness is basically your brain's ruthless efficiency expert. To keep you from being completely overwhelmed, your brain creates this powerful filter, and it actively ignores anything that doesn't match what you're currently focused on. So when someone is scrolling their feed looking for friends or funny videos, your ad isn't just an interruption. It's classified as irrelevant noise and becomes functionally invisible. And this slide really shows you the massive disconnect. As advertisers, we imagine this neat, logical path. Someone sees our ad, they consider the offer, and they convert. Simple, right? But the reality is way more brutal. The user's brain sees a familiar pattern, an ad that looks and feels like every other ad, and that automatic filter just kicks right in. It's a subconscious process. Pattern detected, ad ignored, thumb keeps scrolling. You never even get a chance to make your case. Now, working hand in hand with that is this thing called the relevance heuristic. You can think of this as your brain's super fast what's in it for me filter. It's constantly scanning the environment for anything related to an immediate need or a problem you're trying to solve. So if your ad doesn't instantly scream, hey, this is about you and a problem you have right now, this heuristic just dismisses it as noise to be thrown out. So the bottom line is this: your ad fails because of conformity. In an effort to look professional and polished, you've accidentally put on the camouflage of everything else that gets ignored. Your ad's aesthetic, its pacing, that very first shot, it all matches the pattern of ad, which triggers the brain's automatic ignore function. In this game, standing out isn't just a good idea. It's literally the only way to survive that first second. Okay, so that's the problem. And it sounds pretty bleak, right? We're up against these powerful, automatic, cognitive filters. But the good news is, these filters have a weakness. Now we're going to unpack the elegant, science-backed solution to, well, pick the lock on human attention. The solution is a very precise two-step sequence. I want you to think of it like a lock and key. The first step, disruption, is the key. It has to happen in the first half second, and its only job is to break the user's scroll pattern. The second step, relevance, is you turning that key in the lock. It has to happen immediately after, signaling to the brain that this unexpected thing is actually about them. Now, disruption isn't about being random or weird for the sake of it. It's about engineering a deliberate pattern interrupt that violates the normal aesthetic of the feed. This could be a rapid zoom in, a sudden sound effect, a color that clashes with everything, or some kind of unexpected movement, like a hand quickly covering the lens. These actions are visually new, and they force the brain to pause and ask, "Whoa, what was that?" And just like that, you bypass the ignore function. But listen, this is so important. Disruption by itself is just noise. It's an empty trick. It earns you a flicker of attention, a brief cognitive pause. That fraction of a second is the most valuable real estate in your entire ad. You have to immediately pivot to relevance. The disruption gets their eyes. The relevance gets their mind. You have to instantly connect that pattern interrupt to a problem they care deeply about. And this chart, this really shows you what's at stake financially. A standard ad that fails that 1.4-second test is only ever working with about 10% of its potential audience. But an ad built on this disruption relevance lock ensures the expensive parts, the pitch, the offer, are actually seen by a psychologically engaged audience. You're not just making a better ad, you're making your entire budget 9 times more efficient. Okay, so this isn't just some cool psychology lecture, right? This is a repeatable system. So let's shift from the what and the why to the how. We're going to translate these insights into a practical, actionable framework that you can start using on your creative process like today. Mastering this takes a disciplined 3-step process. First, you've got to formally map the 1.4-second script. Don't you dare leave the opening to chance. Second, you need to actively engineer pattern interrupts. Look at your first frame and ask yourself, does this look like everything else? If the answer is yes, change it. And finally, and this is key, test the hook velocity. Forget A/B testing the whole ad at first. Just test variations of the first 3 seconds to find what actually stops the scroll. So here's a super concrete example of that microscript in action. In that first half second, the visual action is a rapid zoom into a frustrated face, paired with a sudden sound effect. Boom, that's your disruption. Immediately after, from 0.5 to 1.4 seconds, the relevance hook appears as a text overlay. Still paying too much for X? This hits on a potential pain point right away. See how that works? The disruption made them look, and the relevance hook makes them listen. 1-2 punch. So how do you actually know if this is working? You measure something we call hook velocity. For a moment, forget your final conversion rate. The key metric you need to obsess over is your video view rate, specifically at the 3-second mark. What percentage of people who saw that first frame were still watching 3 seconds later? That number tells you everything. It tells you if you successfully stopped the scroll. A high 3-second VR is the ultimate proof that your disruption relevance lock is working. All right, we're coming to the final, and honestly, the single most important idea in this whole system. It's really about shifting your entire perspective from just hoping for success to systematically engineering it right where it matters most. So if you take away just one thing from this, please let it be this. Scroll stopping creative is not the result of luck or some viral trend. It is the result of a cold, logical engineering process that is focused entirely on the opening moments of your ad. It's a strategic decision to solve the biggest problem first, which is the problem of being completely ignored. When you win this first battle, you create the opportunity for everything else to succeed. And that right there is why this is so powerful. In business, leverage is all about getting a huge output for a small input. By focusing your creative energy and your testing budget on optimizing just the first 1.4 seconds, you generate a massive, outsized return on your entire media spend. Seriously, a 10% improvement in your hook will have a much bigger impact than a 50% improvement in your offer down the line. You see, at the end of the day, this whole system works because it's based on respect for the user's brain. It doesn't try to trick people or push them through a funnel. It understands that the brain is designed to filter, and it earns its way past that filter. It uses disruption to get a moment of consideration, and it uses relevance to pull the user toward a solution. It works because it forces the scroll to stop, creating a moment of voluntary engagement. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Go back and look at the first second of your own ads. Be honest. Do they conform or do they disrupt? Do they talk about you or do they instantly signal relevance to your customer? Now that you know the entire battle is won or lost in the first 1.4 seconds, what is the very first change you're going to make?